Today's shaving cream we're going to be using, I think how you pronounce this is Vijon. It's tropical lime and with tea tree oil. And I don't know if the camera is going to pick that up all that well, but that is like a yellowish green tint to it. And the lather does whip up that way also. I'll show you here in just a moment. And we're going to follow up today, at least I should say I'm going to follow up today with this will be the first time me using this particular aftershave, and this comes by the way of Soap Smooth. And the name of this one here is Lime Soda. Thought these two ought to play well together. And this is the kind of aftershave that you will have to shake up before you use it. In other words, the contents have a tendency to separate, so you will have to shake well before you use it. Temperatures have dropped a little bit, just a wee bit. In other words, our temperatures are staying either at or below freezing, even for the high. And so went ahead and whipped it up in the Crown King Scuttle here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's, like I say, it's got a little bit of a yellowish green tint if the light doesn't wash it out. Got it whipped up here with a ONEblade brush with synthetic knot. And definitely, at least for my nose this morning, I'm picking up the lime. Tomorrow morning could be a totally different situation. I'm going to be using a razor I got from IMCDB. I'll have a link down below to his channel. It was a drawing that I was, I guess you might say, the proud winner of. And it was the one core, I should say the ONEblade brush and ONEblade core razor. And the type of blade that it takes a feather blade that comes in a box like this right here. Now, if you decide to give this a try, you can find it, I will have a link down below. You can either purchase it without the blade subscription, or you can purchase it with the blade subscription. The blade subscription, in my opinion, is not a half bad deal if you're going to be using this on a regular basis. And you could choose how often you shave, which is going to dictate how often you get blades. And the blades, in other words, for 30 of them will run you $21. And so in other words, that's about $7 a pack, which is a pretty good buy. You'll have a hard time beating that price. In other words, around the Black Friday sales and stuff like that. So it's a reasonable price, and you can choose on how often you get these blade refills. In other words, just by how often do you shave. So in other words, if you're not going to be shaving with this on a regular basis, in other words, every day, but maybe you put on there that you just once or twice a week or whatever, your blade subscription, in other words, will be stretched out for a number of months. So it's not a half bad buy if you plan on using this ONEblade core off and on, and you get 30 blades for $21. But for me, my experience has been with this ONEblade core is that the blade itself is where, I guess you might say, the Achilles heel is at for me. The second shave on this blade, it definitely is tired at that point. Not near as smooth as the first shave with it. And that's with my beard type. Your beard type might be different, and you might get more shaves than what I do, at least smooth and comfortable shaves with that same blade. So your mileage may vary. But at a price point, in other words, if you're just ordering the ONEblade core, I think it runs at $25. Depends on when you catch it. Every once in a while they'll run a sale and you can catch it for like 20 bucks. And it'll come with with blades, a 10-pack of blades. And past that, I really can't, how you say, complain too much. Here, recent history, they have changed up how their one core and hybrid ONEblade looks, in that the top part, well, on the core, this part here will remain black, and then the handle will be white. So you can choose in between the black handle or the white handle. And on the hybrid, of course, the top part here will remain metal but the handle will be plastic. You can either choose one with a black handle or a white handle. So that makes, kind of spice things up a little bit for those that like colors. Probably could use just a little bit more water. My scuttle put some pretty warm water in there. And even though I thought I was whipping this up a little too wet, but after it sits there for a while in that warm scuttle, it's thickened up just a bit. So we'll see, just a little bit of water to it. The only other thing I could think of that I could probably complain, and it's not so much that it's the ONEblade fault, I guess you might say. It's more that the, well, maybe. Just depends on how you want to look at it. When it comes to cleaning up, you know how, like, for instance, if you've ever used Preshave, how the powdery substance will be on the on your shaver, and it takes a little bit to clean it up. How this has got recessed ends. So in other words, you're probably going to need to use a cotton swab in order to get this thing clean if you're kind of obsessive on how clean your shaver is when you get done. It only takes a moment, but for some people, that little bit of extra cleaning, in other words, just rinsing it off in the water, won't cut the mustard. It won't work. That stuff will still hang on. It'll hang right down in those recessed areas of the shaver. Past the blade part, oh, I'm telling you, this is so easy to use. So if you got like a young one like my son, he's got a little bit of growth, but not a whole lot. This blade will probably last him a whole week. No more what he shaves, and probably even longer. So it would be a nice transition shaver, or one for somebody to get started on. It's easy to use. It's not that you can't cut yourself. It's bad technique, in other words, even for one that's got a pivoting head like this. But it'd take a little bit of effort to cut yourself with it. And if you're looking at it from another point of view, no more money than what this is. And like I say, you get in a 10-pack of blades with it. You can use it for a travel razor. It's lightweight, doesn't have a whole lot of weight to it. For me, I get good shaves as long as I stay on top of the blade. I don't try to push it. Like I say, by the end of that second shave, it's that blade's done. And I refer to it in this way because most people are not going to put out the effort or understand what it takes to try to keep the blade up the sharpness. In other words, trying to strop it or improve the edge or anything like that. This is just put the blade in, use it, and in other words, that's how most people would use this shaver. For those that don't mind stropping the blade and figure out how to get a extra shave or two out of the blade. In other words, you can extend the life of that blade, but for me, 2 shaves is as good as it gets. Now, as it goes for how the handle is designed, what does make it a little bit easier to hang on to is because this plastic is smooth and you can see it's nice and shiny, but due to the fact that it's got grooves through here where the metal bar is at, it does make it a little bit easier to hang on to. If the handle should get wet. Soapy, kind of like it is right now. But as you can tell, it is an easy shaver to use. So in other words, you can probably equate it to you shaving with a DE as it goes for ease of use. And to be honest with you, it's probably even a step further beyond that in the ease of use, due to the fact that the head it pivots. If you got a pronounced jawline, anything quite like that, it'll work right around that area for you. Like I say, I've got a link down below, but if I remember right, this brush isn't too terribly expensive either. But this won't be everybody's cup of tea, especially if you're in the, I guess you might say, the purest side of things. Because your skill set can be minimal with the razor, then it's more on your prep for the shave and your lather. It does afford the opportunity for somebody to, in other words, learn how to use that and not have to focus so much on the technique of the razor itself. But for somebody that just wants to get their shave on, this would be a pretty good shaver, especially at the point of your cost point, just to get started. If you, like I say, you factor in the fact that you're only having to spend roughly, I think it's $19 if you go ahead and do the Blade subscription. And boy, that shaving cream got way up in there. That is one thing about these glasses, you see everything. But with the Blade subscription, if you decide to go that way, it's a pretty good buy. For me, I can't complain about the razor at all. It's more the disappointing part for me would be more of the Blade on a regular basis. But if your beard type is a little bit on the light side in the way of maybe thickness, or your the whiskers are not quite as wiry as these are, you can get more than just 2 shaves out of the Blade, maybe 3. And if you're figuring on, well, if you get 3, 10-pack will give you 30 shaves. That's pretty good. And the shaver's not real expensive. So if you decide maybe it's not for you, you're not out a whole lot of money. But it's a pretty nice shaver. My interest in this one here would be in the hybrid. There is when you go to load the blade, you have to be really careful about how you go about it. There's a couple of places, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Get that little bit of soap build up. It takes a little bit of effort to get it out of the recessed areas right there. Anyway, when you go to load this blade, it's really hard to see because they're pretty tiny. There's what I would refer to as stop hooks right here. So the blade will come down and it'll kind of sort of meet those 2 stop hooks. And it'll lock into place before you get to that point. But if you are not careful and you push the blade too far through there, you'll shave off of those little stop hooks. You'll shave them right on off. And there's 2, I guess you might call them posts on the underside up here on the top cap. And you'll have to bow the blade down just a little bit when you put it in to get past them. And of course, if you don't, you'll shave them off too. So that's the reason why I kind of refer to mentioning the hybrid, because I think that if you're looking at using it long term, because if you're not familiar with this, you're probably going to booger it up at some point. If you do, you might want to consider using the hybrid. You can catch it on sale. And if you're like a new subscriber and a new person to the site, you can get probably a discount for being new. And I think at one point in time, without a subscription, including shipping and everything else, $76, $77 is what the going price was, which is a pretty good buy. That's considering you're getting a hybrid at a lower dollar amount. I think the regular price is like 130 bucks, I think, somewhere in there. So picking it up right around $77 is a pretty good bargain. I mean, considering what the regular price is. If your budget's not that big, of course, it's not a buy. Just depends on where you're at, but for a daily shaver, you can't hardly go wrong with it. Because with the metal head, you don't have to worry about the shaving off the stop hooks or anything of the sort with that metal head. Uh, haven't used the hybrid, so I couldn't tell you exactly how the balance would work, considering it does have a metal rod in the handle, so maybe with the metal rod, then the metal head, maybe it'll bounce out. This is balanced pretty good. I mean, the handle does feel heavy, but considering that it's got a pivoting head, I don't really notice that, in other words, the weight distribution being an issue. At least for me, it's not. My experience. Not everybody will enjoy it. That blade, it's thicker than a DE blade. So if you've been shaving with a DE blade, it may take a few shaves to get accustomed to the blade, but it'll, I think, for most folks, they'll get used to it. Just don't push that blade too far. Otherwise, you may end up with a weeper fest. I know by the end of the second shave with the blade, I have to be really careful in my trouble spots. Otherwise, I will have some weepers down there. But I don't know how well it shows up in the video, but these whiskers are pretty thick. It's been over 20 years since this area has seen a blade, and I can only imagine, how can you say, how careful I would have to be in order to keep from getting weepers, because I remember what it was like when I did shave there with the cartridge razors, and yeah, it didn't take a whole lot of effort to end up with some weepers, and that's with a cartridge. So, yeah, I can't hardly see myself going back to one of those. The experience was not very good. That's what I'm talking about right there. You can kind of see the separation, and it does tell you here on the back to shake well. I picked this up at Pasteur's pharmacy online. It was on sale, I think $8.99, maybe a little bit less than that, somewhere there, inexpensive. So I thought I'd give it a try. I've never used any of Soap Smooth products before. And also, if it matters to anybody, this comes by the way of California. In other words, it's made here stateside. But I did smell this before I started. And yeah, I really like lime, so then they have one smell like a lime soda. That was pretty good. I like it. Thought it'd go pretty good with tropical lime. Definitely will play well with each other. And all this is, I guess you might say, to a degree, some of this stuff is pretty inexpensive. Like I say, I found the aftershave on sale, and Italian Barber's got this, not just this particular flavor, but there we go. Not just this particular flavor, but I think there's 4 flavors total. Everyday price is $3.99. It's going for $1.99 right now. Pretty inexpensive. And I don't recall right off the top of my head how many ounces are in here. It's 125 grams. I didn't think to figure out what the ounces were. But it's not a half bad shaving cream, especially if you can keep it from getting it all over yourself. I had a great shave. This is a pretty nice shaver. And thanks, Chris, for having the giveaway. I like it. Me and the blade don't necessarily get along. Hope everybody's doing well. Stay safe, stay healthy, and smooth shaves to you.